He was so I just would try to keep her away from that. We're live. All right.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to the Freeborn Podcast. Today, I'm here with my friend, Christine Davis. She's also my sister-in-law. That's why she has to be my friend. It's part of the family contract. So that means she also has to do the podcast. And so we got her in here today. She's traveling. She's from Dallas. So we're happy to have you here. Thanks for coming in, and thank you for doing this.
Yes.
I've been looking forward to it. And see, you have too. Well, very good. I'm glad you're here. So you live in Dallas. You've been there for how long? When did you guys?
Rockwall.
Well, you live in Rockwall, but that's Dallas for all of us that are not.
I know. Suburb of Dallas. Though,
yes,
but not in the city.
How long have you been there? You guys moved there when?
I don't know. Gosh, a long time.
You were like 16 or 17?
17. My junior year.
Well, I won't ask you how long you've been there because then people figure out
No,
your
that's
age.
fine. I don't care.
But you've been there
so
a while
long
now.
time since I was 17.
Yeah, you moved up there. Okay, so you're there. You have your husband. You have 2 children.
Yes.
And one of them is in the military. One
Yes.
is in the Navy.
Yes.
When did he get into the Navy?
He joined right when he graduated. The day he graduated, walked the stage, was the day he signed his contract with the Navy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that morning. And then he walked across the stage.
How's he liking it?
He likes it. I mean, you know what? It's been a year, almost a year. August will be a year. He went through boot camp. That was hard, but he loved it. You know, I mean, it's like you hate it, but as soon as you get through it, you know, you feel like, wow, that was incredible. He kind of wishes they were even harder on them, believe it or not. It was 8 weeks. It was hard on me, real hard on me. Anyway,
Why was it hard on you?
Well, because you have no contact.
Okay.
And you're used to, talking to your kid every single day, and you don't know whether or not, they're enjoying it or hating it or regretting, this decision, which I know that you go through probably all of that, and you do go where you regret it. Like I know he said in the beginning, you're like, and it's very normal.
What makes him regret it? What made him regret it at the beginning?
In the very beginning, it's very, very normal. And one thing about the Navy is that they really have all these amazing videos to prepare you for boot camp. So it's almost exactly like all the videos. So I watched all the videos, so I kind of knew what was going to happen. So, right when you get there, right when you get off the bus, they start yelling at you.
So they want you to know to expect that? Like do you know they're going to be yelling at you and stuff?
You kind of do. I mean, it's also toned down a little bit. The cuss words. I mean, their native tongue is cuss words. I mean, that is really, really bad. Like everybody cusses, apparently. Everybody there. And they just start yelling. And so, of course, it's probably way toned down. There's no cuss words in the, videos. And so, yeah, it kind of just helps people if their fear is boot camp and maybe that's keeping them from joining the military because they hear horror stories. It's not that bad at all, especially now in days, with all the political correctness and all that stuff. So I imagine, when my father-in-law went, he can tell you stories about his time in the Navy. So it's a whole different, experience. Boot camp, right when you get there, they shave your head, they're yelling at you, they give you your phone, they say, call your parents, let them know you arrived. And it's like 1 a.m. by the time you get there. And so, you have to say your script, and everybody's standing in a row. And they're like, Dad, I have arrived. I mean, Mom, he called. I answered. I've arrived. I will be, you will be expecting a call from me in 3 weeks. Also, I will be sending you all of my belongings. So they strip down. They take everything, the phone, everything is put in a box, and they label it. And then they're yelling. And you already have to know how to salute, who to salute, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like this culture shock. Plus, they keep you awake for 24 hours. So you have no sleep, no food, and you're so tired. So you go from the comfort of your house to all of a sudden your head is shaved. They're yelling at you. You're like, why did I volunteer to do this? All my friends are in college, and just enjoying their life. And I'm here. What am I, an idiot? So yeah, you have a lot of people. And then some young people, they really decide this is not for me, and then they'll fake a mental illness or something, an injury. So there are a lot of people that go home. They couldn't
drop
cut it.
out.
Yeah, and then they want you to keep, they want to keep you. They make it seem as if they're going to kick everybody out. They really do want to retain the military, whoever goes in there. But there are people that are just not cut out for it, and so they need to weed those people out. They're not mentally strong. There's something, if you start faking depression real bad, I mean, you're gone. So And then there's some that just end up having an injury like halfway through boot camp and they have to go home, and it's awful. It's very, 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 very depressing because you're almost there and you have to go home, you have to heal. Or if they think you'll heal in 3 to 4 weeks, they'll put you in another building and, until you recover.
And then you have to go back to
And then you go right back in. So you never go home. It just
Okay.
extends that time that you're there in boot
So
camp.
how long was it that he was regretting it, you think?
Oh, he said really right after he got sleep. So it was just really the first 24, you're up for 2 days or whatever. So it's more than 24 hours, sorry. It's literally 2 days.
But once they got over that, then he was...
Once they finally got to go to sleep and you can't talk to anybody, he got yelled at, which he hates to, be singled out. And he, saluted somebody wrong or said something and they got in his face, that's not what you're supposed to do, Davis, you're an idiot, So anyway... but then after that, they all start, you start working together. You kind of have a mission and a purpose, and you start to, enjoy. And then they also ease up. Once you get past a certain time, then because they just strip you down, then they build you up, That's the purpose of it.
You mean tear you down?
What did I say?
Strip you down.
Okay.
It sounded
Literally,
like
they do strip you down. No, I don't know about that. They take away all your
I got
identity.
you. You just confused me there.
Okay, no, they tear you down to build you up, to get you out of all your old habits. To just say you to a breaking point where you think you aren't going to make it, to make you feel like you regret it.
Yeah.
If they don't make you feel like you regretted going in, then they really haven't done their job. Really, you know what I mean? Because even as much as preparedness as you think you are, they'll find your weakness, and that's what they focus on. They'll find it within everybody. That's kind of their goal, so that you become a team and you work together, and you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Right.
That's the whole motto.
And how did he like all the physical? He
liked it a lot.
He liked that a lot.
Yes. And there's a lot of people.
Did he play sports in school?
Oh yeah, he played sports his whole life, always.
What sports was he in?
Oh, he was in soccer, baseball, football, flag football. And then as he got older, he got out of sports and. When he played his freshman year of high school football, then he decided, well, he's too small. Where's he going to go? He has to be super fast or, big. So anyway, so he just got out. And then his junior and senior, believe it or not, they formed a male volleyball team. You have to say male because they're thinking, oh, are y'all going to wear the little short shorts like the little girl, the girls? But, actually it was a lot of fun and he loved it. And we would go to his tournaments and guys play it's a higher net. It's a smaller ball. So, but they aren't very good because girls have been playing since they were younger and boys, they usually don't play volleyball and they all think it's for girls. But then when they start playing, they realize, no, this is a tough sport. It's really, really a lot of fun. So he loved it. So he played his junior and senior year. They just formed a team.
And so then he liked the physical part of the bicycle.
He liked, yes. And he did not train at all for physical fitness. He did a little bit towards the end, right before he was about to leave for boot camp. But you have to, test out. You have to pass your physical fitness. So they give you the first time. If you pass it, great. Second time, there's some people that just do not pass the running, and then they'll have to start running every single day. They give them another chance, and then if they don't pass the second one, they go home automatically.
And what is pass?
You have 24 hours to pass it.
You have to run a certain distance.
Yeah, and I don't even remember now. Yeah, a certain amount of time. It's not as tough as obviously the Marines. It's pretty,
Right.
But a lot of girls.
And did he pass on his first time?
Yes, he did.
Well, very good. And so where is he stationed at now?
Hawaii.
Oh.
Yes, poor guy.
Boy, that poor. He's really taking it for the country.
Yeah, exactly.
We sure thank him for his service.
I know. He hates it.
He hates it? Why does he hate it?
Donnie said, when people say thank you for your service, he can't stand it. Because right when he got out of boot camp, they all go to the airport because they're going to wherever their school's going to be. And so everybody, so you have all the military in the Chicago airport, and they're walking. You have to have your uniform on because you cannot wear civilian clothes yet. And so, we're there and everything. But anyway, just everybody, thank you for your service. And he's like, I literally have done nothing. I just graduated boot camp. You know what I mean?
What were you going to say about Donnie?
Oh, that he was saying about are they all heroes and stuff, And I thought that was so funny because I was like, Carson doesn't feel that way at all.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's in Hawaii stationed there, and he doesn't like it there, or does he?
No, of course, yeah.
good there?
He's real happy. He wanted to go out of the country. That's all. He was like, I know I'm going to get somewhere in the United States.
Does he know that Hawaii's the 50th state?
Yes, but the thing is the government, I mean, the military considers it out of country.
Right.
They consider it OCONUS, whatever. So Hawaii was like not even on. He really wanted Japan.
Oh, that would have been nice.
Yeah, he's like, that's why he joined, and I'm like, okay, well, you can't join thinking you're going to get Japan. But, there was a high probability of him getting Japan because a lot of people get stationed in Japan in the Navy. So, anyway, yeah, no, but he got Hawaii and he's not complaining.
That's cool. And what is his job there now?
Okay, well, he went in. The only way he was, I'll just back up a little bit. Carson is not like your typical, like, I always wanted to join, the military. He's not like, a hunter, wants to shoot guns all the time.
Right.
I mean, he's shot guns and stuff like that. He has no problem with that, but he's not like your typical what you think of military. He's not Jocko, okay? I'm Jocko. No, not at all. Okay, so, but he's, just a typical guy, like most guys today. They don't all dream of going into the military anymore.
They're urban.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess. Anyway, he's a metro. No, I'm joking. He's not that at all. He's very manly. But anyway, he, just thought I'm going to go to college this whole time. And, but anyway, when he decided to go into the military, it was only the Navy because he wanted to see the world, and that's the branch he would go into. And then his grandfather was, military, and he was in the Navy.
Okay.
And
on his dad's side.
yes, yes, my father was Army. Anyway, but. I don't even know what I was saying. What was I saying?
Oh, you were talking about I asked you what he was doing.
Okay, yes, sorry. Okay, so then he said, okay, if I go in, I was like helping him look up jobs and trying to find, because he wasn't going to do all that,
Right.
Like most kids. And I'm not going to let him.
Most kids, they just enlist and they don't even.
They enlist.
They just go and sign a piece of paper.
I was super involved. And I was feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm like those crazy mothers that are like, yes, my son would like to join the military. And I'm like, okay, wait, he's trying to join the military. And why am I calling the recruiter 80 times? But then I started thinking, like, I am his advocate. Like, this is so important that I would do this if I was going to college. Like,
you'd go visiting all the colleges.
I would go visit with him, all the colleges and help him try to plan out. So this is way more, you're signing a contract for 4 years. And if he hates it, so I just want, and also I don't want him to waste his time in the military. Like, I want him to get a job that is going to be...
You want him to maximize his time.
I want him to be able to have a job that will translate into civilian life, okay? Because there's a lot of jobs it does not translate at all. I mean, it's still good, you can still launch, your career.
Right, but it's not the same as coming out with a certification or a training.
Absolutely. So
like
what he wanted was IT. It was IT or... this cryptology thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
So it was like between those two. So he decided to go IT. And then he's like, if I do not get, and also with the Navy, you can sign up for a job. Also with the Army, your job, you sign a contract, and that's your job.
Okay.
Okay, you have to pass the ASVAB
Marines
test.
don't do that.
Well, the Marine, you're a Marine first and foremost. Your job is secondary, but you are a Marine. So it's very specialized. That's what it is, The Navy, there's a lot of things, that you can go into. A lot of like the intelligence and, cybersecurity, all that kind of stuff that, you're like kids that are playing video games that, hey, you could join the Navy. You can do, you like hacking, that's what we need.
Yeah.
There's people that are, learn languages that get immersed and they become interpreters.
Yes.
So anyway, so he wanted IT. You had to score a certain score on the ASVAB, mainly in math, high math. He passed all that. But he was like, if the Navy comes back and says, oh, we don't have any jobs right now for IT, then I'm not signing. I mean, that was like he knew when he went, because, they'll try to talk you into something wherever they need, where there's a gap. But anyway, they didn't even try that with him. So, he went into IT. And then there's certain criteria, you have to be able to pass, a top secret clearance.
Background check.
Yeah, well, a top secret clearance, which is way more than a background check. You have to be able to pass that, and a lot of people don't. There's certain like vision and
hand coordination.
Yes. Like you had to do this kind of depth perception test and all that kind of stuff. I don't
Really?
know why.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but certain jobs have certain criteria. So if you know, like you can't, both parents can't, with your background, there's a background check for everybody in the military. Then there's clearance. And then there's top secret. So that's the hardest one to get but it's not for an 18-year-old unless, one of us were a spy or something, but we're not. So anyway, yeah, so that was it. So, but I called the recruiter all the time, made sure, asked a lot of questions.
Loved to talk to you.
I know. And I'm like, I am so sorry. But he's like, no, Miss Davis, I am the same way. Like, honestly, we have more parents calling us, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you are their advocate. And I'm like, I know, exactly. That's what I was saying. So anyway, no. And then, we weren't super excited in the beginning, when he said he was going to join the military.
Imagine not. So how did he came and just said, I want to do that? Or how did that go? How did that happen?
Okay, never, ever said a word about the military. And ever.
And so you guys are just thinking he's just going to college?
We just thought, okay, well, when he got in his senior year, he said, his grades were terrible, he could care less about school. I never saw him study. Ever. He's like, oh yeah, I already did my homework. Yeah. And so I don't even know how he got through. But, he's smart enough. He's not.
It's not hard to get through high school these days.
So he got through high school. He got through Spanish, 2 years of Spanish. He doesn't know even hola. You say hola to him, he's like, huh? What language? Oh, you're speaking Chinese. So I don't even know how he passed. Anyway, but, he just never really cared for school. But he always went to school. He liked the social aspect of it, whatever. But he was going to go to college, of course, like everybody. You just ingrain that into your children when they're even in kindergarten. The school does. It's like, you pick your college, wear college week, which is nothing wrong with that. Of course not. But, it's a little extreme. They make it seem as if when you start getting to your senior year, you start to feel like a loser because everyone's talking. They're like acceptance letters. I mean, even me as a parent, I'm on Facebook. Everyone's like, my kid just got accepted to Harvard. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my kid maybe might go to junior college. And you feel like maybe you did something wrong, and then they feel a little bit shame, especially like his high school. Like everybody goes to college, for the most part.
Right, because of the area where you live.
Yes, and maybe even whether or not they finish is a whole other story. But everybody, that's the whole goal. Everybody says, "I'm going." They're going to college. They're going to college. They're going to college. So anyway, well, he wanted to go to like a 4-year college, like everybody else.
Like a university.
Like a university.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm like, well, we don't have the money. I mean, we're not going to get any loans. I mean, we are, too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. We're right there, and we don't have the money for you to go, to pay, for a university. And I do not want you to get in debt. And he is very, very, very smart with finances, like very good with his money. He did not want to go in debt. He thought that was very stupid. So he's like, I'll go to a junior college. But he was not happy. Like, he did not really want to go to college, period. He wants to go party, like go with his friends, live the life, like everybody. That's what most boys want to do because they're so immature.
He wasn't interested in more school.
No. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go take my basics now and go to junior college. And he didn't even have good study habits. So I'm not saying that he's not capable of that.
No, of
but he
not.
needed the maturity. He needed the discipline. He needed to be focused. He also needed to know what his goals are. And he didn't have one. He knew he wanted to go to college, but what does he want to do? He had no idea. He would just lie. He said, tell people, I want to be an attorney. So you think
he was saying you wanted to go to college just because everyone's doing that?
Well, what else is he going to do with his life?
That's true.
If you don't have a goal, you're barely a kid, you're graduating high school, what do you think you're going to say? I'm going to go get a job making $100,000 a year? No, you have to go to college. You have no trade. You don't want to go. You have no purpose. Like, you feel like...
Now, he's always been working, though, right?
No, he's always had a job.
He's always been a hard worker, right?
Yeah, he's always had a job. We always made him have a job, and he loved having a job.
Where was he? What kind of jobs did he have?
He worked. His first job was CC's Pizza.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then he worked, and he was washing dishes. And, he hated it. But all his friends went to go work there, 4 friends. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of fun. One by one, every one of them quit. And not Carson. And so he didn't quit until they were giving him like double shifts. He'd work like morning. He'd come home. His shirt is soaking wet because he's washing dishes, and then change clothes, eat something real fast, and then run back up there and work another second shift on Saturdays. Anyway.
How old was he?
16.
And how long were the shifts?
On, like, he would pick up a double.
Yeah, I know.
So, no, they
Each
were just
shift
like
was
normal. I don't know. I don't even remember.
Well,
they weren't super long.
I'm just
during the
wondering.
evening.
I'm just wondering because at 16 legally he can't work more than 8 hours in one day.
Oh, he said everything was illegal there, like everything.
So I was wondering.
He said he saw all kinds, and I'm like, Carson, they can't even. But they didn't.
I mean, I think that's good for him, but
he
but
also
legally,
picked
that's bad.
up shifts. You know what I mean? Like if somebody, but he would come home, so he would have like an hour. You know what I mean? But for the next shift.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but legally the
I don't think it was.
business
I don't
can't do
think
that.
he worked 16 hours. I mean,
You can't work more than 8 in a day.
Yeah,
legally.
but he did.
I know,
He'd come
that's what
home
I'm
like
saying.
11
I hear
o'clock
it.
at night, because
Wow. Well,
anyway.
I'm not trying to police
You're
anyone. I'm
reporting
just
it.
yeah.
No.
I'm just
No.
an employer who has employed my kids, and I know the rules. I never abided by them either.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Allegedly.
Whoa.
Yeah, wait
You're
a
like,
second.
Was this law not, when I
Enforced.
was 16? I
Yeah,
was working 12
No, that law's very new.
exactly.
Newest law.
He's going to look it up and see if it applies at his age right now.
Exactly.
I don't care. I take off anyways.
He doesn't work anymore at all.
Yeah.
Anyways, so.
Then after Cece's, where did he go?
Then he went to, I think, McDonald's. He hated McDonald's because he quit Cece's, and my husband was like, "You better get another job." He's like, I am. I can get a job real fast. I can get a job. But there was a couple of weeks where he started like playing video games, and then he wasn't going out. And my husband will, stay on his butt, which is good. It's good for him. I'm happy for that. And also me too. I can't stand, just him sitting around. I don't know why. Just like, you're not going to be lazy, Anyway, he's like, calm down. I'm 12, like, okay, sorry. But anyway, so then he went to McDonald's, and then he hated it because he was embarrassed. He always said, that's like the job that people have when they're like,
Jobless? Like where you can't get a job?
Yes, so you're just working at McDonald's. I'm like, yes, but you're 16, so it's not a big deal.
That's funny that it has that name.
What?
Well, McDonald's, it's funny that it has it because it's a good job.
It is a good job.
It's a good company.
Yeah, they paid well, but he didn't like it, the
interesting.
people that he worked with again. But, he was fine. Then he worked at a little Mexican restaurant.
Where he got
for a
to
while.
practice his hola.
Yes, exactly. And he was a busboy there. And he was making, decent money, but not enough hours, not enough money. And then he went to go work at Olive Garden. And that was right before he left to the military.
As a waiter at Olive Garden?
No, he was supposed to go in as a waiter. And they're like, well, if you want right now, we have busboys. We just hired all our wait staff. His friend got waiter. And so he was so jealous because his friend was making all this money. And Carson's very motivated by money. And but he actually made pretty good money as tips. And so he was going to move into waiting. But then he was leaving anyway to the military. So... Yeah.
And so he goes into the military.
Yeah, so he just decided one day, I think he was feeling down, like, where am I going? And I think he just didn't seem himself. And he's like, you know what? I think I might just join the Navy, like out of the blue. And
Did he have any friends who had joined?
No, nobody joins the military, It's for losers. That's how I think most people, it has a stigma attached to the military. And it's not literally for losers, of course, and I think it's the best thing ever now
So what was your reaction when he said that?
Well, honestly, I was kind of happy because I didn't have, I mean, if he said, I would have been more afraid if it was like another branch or a certain branch because it's scary.
Right, it's more combat oriented.
It's combat, yes. Yeah. You have to know what you're getting into. And then the Navy, I thought, okay, or the Air, and I kept trying to push Air Force. Air Force. But then
why is that?
I don't know. I just Air Force. I think because I looked at some of their jobs availability, what they have, but then they also have a lot of the same ones in the Navy. But then the more I started looking at the Air Force, he probably would have been stationed in San Antonio with, I mean, it's so big. And I'm like, ooh, no. And then basic trainings in San Antonio, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, nothing wrong with San Antonio. But for somebody who wants to join the military to see the world.
Yeah,
and
no.
that's why he's like, no, I want the Navy. And then his grandfather had tons of Navy stories. And I think he got motivated because of that, So anyway, no, and I was a little bit freaking out a little bit. But of course, I right away started researching, looking at all the jobs. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to push them too hard. I started getting excited about all of these opportunities and all of this. Like, this is going to be a really great, launching pad for you, for your career, for your family, because it's like multi-generational, benefits that you can get. All of these things, like, it's really, really good. And because it'll pay for his college if he does decide to go. I mean, my father was in the Army. When he got out, he went to college because he's more focused. He didn't know what he wanted to do. It saved his life. My father-in-law, as soon as he got out of, the Navy, he gets married right away, and he's like, wait, I need more money. So he went to college, got his master's. Everything is paid for. So, I kind of feel like Carson, my husband went to college at an older age, right when we got married. He was going to college, but then he really got focused because now we're married,
Yeah, marriage does that.
Marriage does that to you because you want to be a provider.
Does it to boys.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yes.
Boys, men,
Yeah.
whatever.
Men, yeah.
Yes, no, because
Well, they're boys until they get married, really.
Okay, that's true.
Very few men are men before they get married, no matter what age they
Yeah.
get married at. It's very interesting.
But most men, 70% of men worry about being a provider. Compared to like women, it's like 20%,
Yeah.
being a provider for their family. And so most men, that's weighs very heavy on them. And a woman, it's more like 70% they worry about being an involved parent. And for a father, that's like way on the bottom, like
Yeah.
being an involved parent. Like for them, it's being a provider. So anyway, yes, so, and it makes sense because same thing with my dad, same thing with my father-in-law, and I think Carson, and my husband, college degree, and I think Carson will fall into that too. I do not think he was ready right after high school. There was no way. He had no direction.
I don't think a lot of young men, or especially young men, girls seem to do better in college right
They
after.
do better, way better.
Yeah, but boys don't seem to be ready at that age
They're
for
not.
more education.
They're not. There's very few that are. They already know what they want to do. Great, but I
Yeah.
mean, it just even statistically now, boys are way falling behind. I mean, girls are way surpassing the getting master's degree, college bachelor's degree, and
Yes.
boys that just are falling way, way, way behind.
Yeah.
Which is
And
a huge problem.
It is a problem, and it's like you were saying. I think part of it goes back to high schools being so lousy. I mean, they're just horrible. Public high schools are just terrible, and so the only experience boys have with education is a very bad experience. And you'll find that the boys that have an interest to go to college and do it not to find a party scene, but actually because they're looking for an education, you'll find part of that, I think, is that they had a much better experience in school, and education was more valuable to them. They were the education system has been set up to cater to girls.
Yeah, for sure. No,
Because
I've been
women were
saying
so
that.
underrepresented
Yes.
in college for so long. And so we've tried to, as a country, reset that balance.
Yes.
And try to make it where women were more likely to go to college. But boys and girls learned it very differently.
Well, yeah, that's why girls always excel in school, and boys are always.
Well, they didn't used to.
But boys overwhelmingly are like on ADD medication and diagnosed with ADD. Overwhelmingly, boys, way more than girls, because they don't behave in
Yes.
school. But that's because school is, it's very hard for boys. They have a lot of energy, and they cannot treat boys and girls the same.
That's right.
And so, yes, being calm, sit down quietly, take your pencils out. Boys are like, sword fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it takes a long time. And I don't think personally that it's just the education system. I think it's just boys being boys, no matter what.
Right, but what I'm saying is the education system used to be set up for boys, not
To
for
thrive.
girls.
Oh, yes. Okay. I understand
Way
that.
back, and
Yes.
so it worked a lot better back
Yes.
then, right? So you had recess where you go outside
Yes.
and you run like crazy. You play on dangerous games. You throw balls at each other. We'll get you some water. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. That was Carson's favorite
Text
thing was his was PE. And then when he would act up or whatever, he said they would punish you from going outside. And he's like, that's the dumbest punishment, because that's how they will behave better if you go outside and get all of that energy out. So their
Right.
punishment was like, okay, no PE, no
Right.
recess.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
like, no,
and then
that's
the
what
recess
they
they
need.
have is they've stripped
Sure,
away
yes.
anything that is competitive, that could demoralize a
Mm-hmm.
person. So no dodgeball, nothing like that. Where boys
Mm-hmm.
like, because and it's turned into every part of school is feminized,
It's feminized.
which is great for girls.
Well, yeah, that's why they're doing so well
they're
right
doing
now.
Fantastic.
And
Which is, I'm not knocking that.
No,
I think
of
that's
course
fantastic.
not. No, of
I mean,
course not. I'm more
But-
concerned
but
about my
we've-
boys. I'm not concerned about girls. I mean, girls have everything. It's all, they're doing just fine.
Well, but that's because of the changes, and I think that's good. I mean, I think that I don't know the solution.
I think it's good, but I don't think that we have to. It shouldn't be.
We should not have left the boys behind doing.
Yes, and they're falling way behind
Way
because
behind.
boys, even when they get out of high school, they're not needed. Even when girls are going now, it's going to be harder and harder to find marriageable men because if they're not going to college, or if they're not going to, and girls are getting more educated, they don't feel like they're needed. Okay, where's my purpose? In life, and so they end up getting depressed. They end up going into drugs. They end up, and then also, single household families too. They can't be, because if they're concerned more about being a provider, if there's like a single parent, they also, if they're on welfare or whatever, who's providing? Not the man. The woman's being taken care of by the government.
Yeah.
And then the husband, the man, the father, whatever, is being left out. It's always at the expense of the boy, the man. And so I feel like it's a real big issue. So
Yeah.
in society.
No,
But-
it is a problem, and so then it's exactly like you say. You get there's some water there.
Oh, thank you.
You want to pour
okay.
that in there? Oh,
Is this off camera? There, y'all are watching this.
yeah. Now it's on camera.
Yeah, go to commercial. Go to our sponsors. Okay, so what were you saying?
No, I was just saying. So yeah.
You wanna give me
Here, I'll take it. So so you have so you got this school system that's not set up to get boys interested in education.
Right.
And then you have high schools that are incredibly corrupt. And by corrupt, I mean, people always get the wrong impression when I say that. They're corrupt in that they're not fulfilling what they were designed to do.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying it's intentionally that way. I
Right.
don't mean that
No,
there's
of
any
course.
maliciousness there.
Yeah.
But high school as a system was designed to be the higher education at a time because
Right.
most people never got there. That was the college, right?
Right.
That was the high school. And it was designed for a system, and it was really designed to get people who had the academic ability to prepare them to go to even higher education, which
Right.
would be college. And not everybody went there
Right.
to college. It was like to prepare them for that. Well, it's not doing that. It's just like extended daycare, many of these colleges. And if you really want to, if you have a self-drive, you can get out of it what you want.
Absolutely.
But it seems like high school is that you get out what you put into it, which isn't the way public schools are supposed to work.
Well, and I also
That's how college is supposed to
And
work.
I also think that they just have one model, and that's just you go from there and you go to college. They don't really promote anything else. So even like, again, I'm going
That's
back
true.
to the military, it has a bad stigma. Before everybody, it was like part of the American, history, whatever. Everybody went.
A lot of people
went to the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now because college is so, college is looked at as, of course, the preferred. Military is like for those people who really have nothing else going for them, in their life. So you get a lot of people with those kinds of backgrounds that go into the military, which again saves their life. I mean, my father had a GED.
Well, if
He
you
had
look
nowhere to go.
if you look at his siblings and what their lives turned out to be compared to his, it's day and night.
No, the military saved my dad's life.
Yeah.
He came out of high school, no college degree. I mean, no high school degree. He actually had to get out of high school and just get his GED.
I'm sorry.
And-
I keep going up and getting out of frame.
Oh, so he, he joins the Army. He has, no mom, no dad relationship at all. He's alone. He has nowhere to go. So he joins, and he went to Germany. He got to experience and see the world. And when he got out, he had that. I mean, just it changed the trajectory of his life.
Yeah, and
the
also
military.
and also in the confidence level, he came out with confidence
Absolutely.
that he could tackle things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, he's jumping out of airplanes. I mean, now he feels like a man. And then he got married. He found my mom, and he needed a job. He got into the police department, and it was because of the military.
And that gave him that lined up with that job of being in the police
Absolutely.
department.
Yes. And then. Same with my father-in-law. He got, into social work and everything and worked for the VA and retired from there, went into the Navy, came out, and then he went into the Army Reserves, retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
He always says, I'm 1 step away or 2 steps away from the general or whatever. 1 step, 2 steps, he'll probably correct me, I forget. But anyway, he's like, he just kept, he's kept with it. And that alone, like his military for serving, like the amount of benefits that you get, you can buy a house, all these things.
Yes.
And again, I just wish it was more of an option because it does grow you up so much, so fast. And you can't get that kind of experience, that discipline, that focus, and because it also makes you feel like you have a purpose, because it's not just about that, it's about the mission. And so you're working with other people, and never in your life are you, and that's just so good for men, and then when they come out, they feel like, okay, now I can get married and I can get a job now, and because it teaches you leadership. There's a lot of other things that the military you can benefit.
Yeah.
Unless you get PTS. I'm joking.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
That's a whole other.
Yeah, you get into like when I had Don on last week talking about he was in the Battle of Fallujah, and talking about the consequences that type of environment has on people. It's also pretty serious. So
it's absolutely.
There's a lot of risk side to it. There's a high risk side to being.
There is a high risk side, but then a lot of times, who else? You don't see girls going, I want to grow and I'm going to blow up stuff. And they know the risk. My nephew is a Marine. He knew, and he always wanted to be a Marine. Nobody wants their kid to be a Marine because it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
But we need them. And they want to do that. It's only a boy that's willing to die for their, just because it's what they want to do.
A young boy.
You could say, yeah, for their country, yeah, but that's what we need. And it helps them. It builds them into being fine young men. And women, mothers, do not want their sons to go into the military because we want to protect them. And we don't allow them to be men because we don't understand it. Why would you want to go into the front lines being the first responders out there, or not responders, they're the first line
wave.
of, whatever. They're right there in the front. They're going to get shot at and killed or whatever, most likely. Who wants to be a Navy SEAL? I mean,
No, it's brutal.
It's very brutal, but they do. They dream of this.
Yes.
That's what it is for some people to live their life and to be a man.
It's a much higher percentage of men dream of that than women.
Yes.
Although not all men do. There's many men that have no interest in that.
Absolutely, and I'm not here to say that military's for everybody, nor do I think college is for everybody.
What I think you're saying, what I understand you're saying, is you think that military should be a consideration for everybody.
Military
should be on the table.
Maybe
There's
not
an
even
option.
Yes, just like college.
Right.
Yes, and not to give it like this stigma, because if a boy feels like I don't really want to go to school, maybe they're just not wanting to sit in a classroom. Like, it's not for everybody. They're more like hyper. They're their hands, or they want to be a mechanic, or they do want to just go and shoot them up, blow them up, and run and get tanks, and you know what I mean. That's okay.
I think
there's not like he's an idiot.
I think part of the stigma overall that you're talking about is that, and I agree with you on this, and I've also been trying to get this out to people for a long time. I think part of the stigma on this is that they're making a point to kids, which I think is inaccurate, and that is, if you don't get to college immediately after high school, then you're never going to succeed in life. You can't succeed unless you get there immediately.
Right.
And I think that's an enormous mistake.
I agree.
I just don't think that's true at all.
Because
he had to take a breath.
Holding my breath.
Got to breathe. Darth Vader over here.
See, we got that for him because we would be sitting here doing this, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this like,
yeah.
So we gave him
Yeah.
got him a mute button.
We have to make sure we mention that on every podcast. Let everybody know
I never had
I'm
heard
a
that.
heavy breather.
You're a heavy breather.
I snore when I'm awake, apparently.
That's funny.
So my guests sometimes think
Yes.
he's sleeping.
Yeah.
They're all like, you falling asleep?
Yeah.
Like, nope, he's
Yeah,
just
it's
breathing.
not really the breathing. It's mostly because my eyes are closed.
Oh, okay. So maybe
And
you
he's
are.
drooling off the side of his
Yeah.
face.
So you're
They're normally
snoring.
asking that because I'm asleep.
Exactly. You're like, what? You just woke me up. Thanks.
Somebody's asking, who's this smart, beautiful woman? I must meet her.
Michael?
The
What?
comment.
Is it my husband? Okay. I was already.
Oh, you got a fan. Now we have 2.5 viewers.
Yes, he's the only one right now. Yay.
You were worried that about our 1.5 million. It's you misread. It's 1.5 viewers. That's how many viewers.
I was
we
like,
have.
why would he read that? Gosh, I get so many fans. Really, we just don't
Keep
you
the
know.
crazies off,
Yes,
Nolan.
exactly.
Just keep the crazies off.
Yeah, so that's my husband. That's funny. So no more other questions. You want to take callers? No, I'm joking.
No, but like we were saying,
Yes.
I think that is. I think that, in my opinion, that's the wrong idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with people who are highly motivated for more education to go
course not.
immediately. Should go immediately.
Absolutely.
But most, especially with men, I think it's even more so.
Yes.
They just coming out of high school, many of them are not mentally prepared, I don't think, to go into college and get what they need to get out of it.
No.
And I'm just against college for a degree's sake. I mean, I understand that there's value. I'm not saying there's no value to a degree in itself. I just can't stand these people. I can't stand the idea of people getting degrees that don't actually know what they even studied. That can't even
It
pass.
doesn't even help
If
them.
you were to give them a simple test on what they have a degree in, many of them would not pass it.
Right.
And that just to me is a waste of money. Now, I see it, but I'm looking at it different. So obviously you can get a job and you're like, well, then it's like certification.
Well, I know.
Okay, whatever. But
No,
I just don't look at it.
I agree with you in that. I mean, if you're putting all this pressure, a lot of people come out of college and they are in debt. And they only went.
Yes.
They only went because, they felt like, well, this is the only thing that's going to help me make any kind of money. So, being an entrepreneur, doing anything else, they think this is the only pathway to me being successul
And it's
in life.
because the schools are pushing it
And
that
because
way.
when you're in kindergarten, it's
Yes.
literally college. Where are you going to go to college? Where are you going to college? Oh, honey, where are you going to go to college? Everybody asks that. Like, it is the question. So it puts so much pressure on these kids. Like, okay, well, if I don't go there, what are you telling me? They become conditioned that I'm like a failure. If they don't want to really go, they're not going to tell anybody because they feel ashamed. Like, what is wrong with me? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a big freaking
See,
loser.
I think that is a feature or a product of two different things going on. One of them is sincerity, and I think that these teachers sincerely believe that's the best option that people have for success in life, and they're looking at numbers that they say, well, college graduates make X amount of dollars more than high school graduates.
Won't be like
whatever.
that now.
Yeah,
It's changed.
It's changing
Very fast.
Yes, but I think there's sincerity on one part.
Absolutely.
But then there's also marketing, and colleges they're
making
enormous
buttloads
business,
of money.
and they are marketing themselves.
Absolutely.
And they know that if I could have a product that I could market to kids
Mm-hmm.
from the time they're kindergartners, every day of their life, market this product that when you're 18, you're going to buy this car.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a Ford when you're 18, and every day, all day for 6 hours, I could have somebody paid to tell somebody to buy a Ford. How many Fords do you think we would sell?
Right.
A lot of Fords. And I think that, and I'm not saying that this is all that. I'm saying that I think there's both things going on, but I think colleges are too heavily marketed.
Well, yes, and also because when you think about like my parents' generation, boomers, or the whatever sleepers, whatever it's called, I forget the generation right before that. But anyway, so most of them did not go to college. It was like a dream, so to go to college. Okay, so they pushed it on Gen X's, but even Gen X's, which is me, But it was still probably, a lot of people went to college, but it wasn't still heavily emphasized as much as it is with millennials. So millennials, everybody goes to college. So they really just wanted everybody to go to college. So if you talk to any millennial, they'll be like, college is the only way, blah, blah, and all the teachers and everything. Well, then everybody now, they're coming out with $30,000 on average. That's the average debt, student debt coming out of college with $30,000. They have no work experience. They have useless degrees. And this is generally speaking, of course, please don't take any phone calls.
No.
Excuse me,
This show ought to be called The Generalization.
Yes,
because that's what we do here.
Exactly.
So
and I always speak in general terms, and those people that say,
you're
well,
clear.
I have a
Go for
cousin.
it.
I'm like, oh, shut up. We're not talking about your stupid cousin. We're talking about generally
We paint with a broad brush here.
I
so
do.
Don't worry
I
about
like
it.
to
Go
do
right
that.
Ahead.
Everybody. How about that?
Every single one of you have a useless degree.
Exactly. No. I mean, literally, that's what helped my husband get a degree. It was super important for him to get a degree. Okay. But what I'm saying is that the way things are changing now, that everybody now is getting a degree, again, broad brush, everybody, that it's becoming less desirable, because now if everybody has a degree, then what is going to filter you when a recruiter's trying to get you? So now if you have a degree, military experience, again, trying to bring back the military, you would think I was a recruiter for them. But I'm just saying you need more than just a degree. And now you're in debt. You're $30,000, that's on average, or more, way more. For you, a degree, you have no way of even moving out, starting a family, getting married, because now you have to move back home with mom and dad, to pay off your bills, and you can't afford to go out. And then you expect, okay, I'm going to come out of college because everybody told me I was going to make so much money, and you're not even employable. Like, you're doing a job that anybody could do. Mm-hmm. And you're like,
you're absolutely right.
So it's because college was very, very, very important back then, because not everybody went, and so it was.
That's what made it important.
Now, yes, that's what made it important.
See, that's the economics of it. What made it important back then was that only a few people had it.
Exactly.
So it's like, if you can do this, if you have the academic qualifications, if you have the mental acuity, and you can get this, it's going to be very good for you. You're going to make a lot more money. Absolutely, that's true. That was true. If every single person has a degree in America, that is not going to solve the problem.
No.
All of a sudden, that's Poland. So I have family members that live in Poland. We're missionaries there. Everybody in Poland has a degree. It's like a high school degree.
Yes.
Everybody has a degree. So now the bachelor's degree is not meaningless. It gives you no advantage in Poland to have a bachelor's degree, because everybody has a bachelor's degree. You have to have a master or a double master's or a doctorate to get up.
Geez.
And everything just gets moved up. And that's what people don't realize.
They just need to do apprenticeships.
Well, they need to quit. I think the problem is that colleges are corrupt, and that it needs to be harder to get in. I like education. I like it a lot. I wish my main problem I have with people and going to college, speaking on that, is that they don't learn what they're studying. So many of them.
Exactly.
And that to me is not acceptable. If someone's going to go to college, they need to actually learn it. That means more, I think, than a degree. And businesses are figuring this out. Businesses are figuring out that having a degree does not mean that person knows anything about it.
Yeah, well,
and now they're starting to find other ways to filter people other than a college degree.
Now they're really pushing, because like IBM is one of the big ones. I can't think of, there's some other ones, maybe. I don't know if it's Google or not. I don't want to. But anyways, some large companies now are not requiring bachelor's degree. They don't want to put such a heavy emphasis on that, because they feel like they're missing out on another, like most of those big wealthy entrepreneurs, they didn't sit in a classroom. They just were geniuses. They didn't need a professor to to tell them everything. And they had this drive and motivation, and and they were good at that skill, whatever it is. So that's what you need. You don't need somebody.
Well, that's how it is. Like, I'm involved with a couple different things I have experience in. One of them is computer programming. Most really good computer programmers didn't study it. The geniuses of the computer industry, they didn't go to school for it.
Right. No, you're right.
They just sat at home
Exactly.
and program 24 hours a day.
And they probably would fail out in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
they wouldn't do well
a
in
computer,
college.
yes, because some of them are just like loners. They don't do well, and maybe even in writing and English. They don't want to do all that. Like they're like super, extremely gifted in one area.
Well, and college would be so boring to them. It's like
Yes.
gifted kids. We found out with gifted
That's
kids in
right.
school, right? That if you put a gifted child in a normal math class, it's not like he's going to be the top of the class. You
No.
would think he'd be the top of the class.
Right.
He's not.
No.
He's going to be in the bottom of the class or in the middle somewhere.
No, it's
bottom
exactly
middle.
right. They get bored and they don't
They
even
get bored
do
and they
it.
don't do anything. It's like, just forget it. I don't want to. And then they don't develop their skills.
Exactly.
Because just because you're a genius doesn't mean you don't have to learn anything.
No,
People
right.
think nowadays we have the television view of geniuses.
Right.
That a genius comes out knowing everything. That's
Yeah.
not what a genius is. A
Like,
genius
look,
is
he
someone.
just was born knowing
Yes.
everything. Like somebody taught him that,
Yeah.
but he retains it.
and about everything, right?
Yes,
not
about
only
everything.
it's like if I'm a genius in math, then
Yes.
I'm a genius in every
Right.
possible thing.
No, and not at all.
Not at all. It doesn't work that way. But so when you put a genius in a normal class, they're not going to develop their genius. They're not going to, and it just gets wasted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so we've learned that in lower schools that we have to get these kids that are talented into places where they're challenged and where they're not the top of the class. I heard I forget who said it now. But anyway, somebody, I wish I could recall who said this, but he said, he or she, it may have been a she, that most likely it was a he.
Probably.
They said that I'll use the gender
Yes.
neutral pronoun, the
Okay.
they, the zer.
Yeah.
Zer
Okay.
said
Yes.
that you never want to be the top. You always want to be in a position where you're no higher than number 2.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be the best in your work. You don't want to be the best at wherever, no matter what you're doing. You don't want to be the best player
because
on the
then
team.
you don't work towards anything.
You have no goal.
You have no goal.
Always, as soon as you find you're the best, he says, or she says, in that field you're in, you want to change fields or
Right. Mm-hmm.
change where you're at, right? And go find somewhere where there's somebody better than you.
Right.
Because you always want to have that drive
Right.
to be better.
Right.
And you won't do that. It's almost impossible to do that when you're already the best.
Right. Oh, that's true.
And so that's what we found with him. And when we go into college, you get these like we're talking about, these extremely talented, let's say computer programmers, but it work with any field. Very, very naturally talented
Yes.
to it. They wouldn't do well in college today, in most colleges, because they're going to say, okay, now you need to take your basics, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, and then you
forget it.
have the guy that does well only because he has no real like God-given talent. You know what I mean? He learned, but he's not the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you can do anything you want to do, and you just take these courses, and they're going to teach you.
They're going to make
But
you.
if you don't really have the knack for it, you're only going to get so far. So if you're just hiring this dude because he's got a bachelor's degree and this guy over here who's like this super genius that could totally change your company,
Yeah.
you cannot overlook that. There needs to be a different way. Because
There is.
this other guy that has a degree, he might have just picked a degree because he was just like, oh my God, I've changed my major 18 times. And now I'm just like, okay, I'll just pick this because I don't want to lose all those credits with all those classes. So I'm just going to go into this, just because, and so that they can get out. I mean, that's why most people don't work in their degree. They work in marketing. They get a marketing degree and they're working right along with me, in sales,
Right.
or whatever.
Well, there's a lot of those degrees that really aren't meaningful.
No.
They're not gonna. They're like, in my opinion, like a business degree is not a very meaningful degree. And I'm not trying to offend people that hold a business
Yes.
degree. And some of them,
just
I'm sure,
lost
are very
some
good at
listeners
it.
right
I just
now.
lost a half a viewer.
Yes.
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I just look at a business degree, and I find that people with business degrees many times couldn't run a business if they had to.
Right.
And I'm not convinced that they're giving them the knowledge they need at that point. These to me are just degrees that you don't need to go to college to be able to do this.
No, and you shouldn't have to. Like, I totally think like engineering will always be on the
Yes.
top earners.
Of course,
you go
that's
to
a
engineering school, you are
You
going to
cannot
not
be an
poor.
engineer
And you
without
cannot.
taking these
And you
classes.
cannot be stupid to even be. I could not say I'm going to go to college to be an engineer. I mean,
'Cause I can do anything I want.
Yeah, because I'm going to make so much money. No, I would never even get past the first class.
I have some friends who are extremely talented in math and very intelligent who weren't able to get an engineering degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
No, it's a very,
one
very
of those
hard.
STEM fields, right?
Yes.
And those to me are what college should be about. I think college should really be about these STEM fields.
Yeah.
And things like doctors and lawyers, things you actually have to go to
Lawyers,
school
now
for.
forget it.
Don't get you off on that.
I know. Well, everybody's an attorney now. Everybody goes to law school, and it's going to become useless too. Sorry, all you attorneys.
The advantage with attorneys, and this is why they have, this is how they've propped up their business, is that they have a licensing just like doctors, so you can't practice without it, right? And if every field had licensing, well, then every degree would be meaningful. So you would have to hire a licensed person to do your payroll,
right?
Type in the numbers. It's the academic version of a syndicate.
But you know what? Like in the state of California, you can become an attorney if you just go and work as an apprentice underneath, and then you take the bar.
Well, that's good.
I think that's amazing.
That's great.
That's why Kim Kardashian is going to be an attorney, and Kanye West is going to be our president.
I love America.
Exactly. Well, yes. Where else can a rapper who knows nothing and, can run for president? I don't think he really is. And then his wife, now she's going to be an attorney, But I'm glad for that. All I was talking about was really the fact that I think if more states did something similar to that in different fields, not just being an attorney.
Well, yes.
I would be interested. I never went back to college because I still, to this day, if somebody said, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like when I get older, I really don't know.
But see, this is how college was originally set up. It was just a formal apprenticeship system because before you'd have to go, if you wanted to be a doctor, you found a doctor. And you would go work for him. Start off when you were a little kid, right? Doing whatever. And you work your way up and you'd learn the skill, you'd learn the thing, you'd learn the trade. And that's what being a doctor is. It is only a trade.
Right.
It's not this godlike capacity, right?
Yes.
It's just a trade that you can learn just like you can learn anything else.
Right.
If you have the mental acuity for that.
The aptitude.
Right, the aptitude for it. But that's how it was. Well, they got to realizing that was very inefficient. Right. Because you got to go find a doctor who needs an apprentice, and just the whole apprentice system is kind of inefficient. So they put it all together into a single place, and it's like you go to college, but that was essentially like apprenticeship. You went there and you learned from people who had learned it already, knew it. But now we have people teaching college who have never done what they're teaching.
Yeah.
We have, people teaching business classes who have never one time in their life run a business.
Because they're a business. They couldn't get a job with their business degree. Joking.
No, that's exactly right.
I guess I'll go teach.
Yeah, they get a degree so they can teach that. And they've never actually done it, ever.
Yeah.
And so that's how it's completely been corrupted.
Like I did, so I was a volunteer for, it's called CASA, and it's Court-Appointed Special Advocate. And I would go to court.
Explain a little bit what that is.
Okay, so CASA is it's a nonprofit organization, and it is you're an advocate for children who have been removed from their homes and placed in foster care.
Okay.
So then they are given, you're court appointed, so you are judge. Sworn in by the judge, and you are basically like the eyes and ears of the court. So you will be given a case. This case, you have access to all of the information. Like you can talk to the doctors, you can talk to, because you're like their guardianship too. So you can go to talk to the teachers, get report cards, get every single thing. You talk to the mother, you talk to, usually there's not a father, but if there is a father, you talk to, the foster family, everything. And you go before the judge with everybody else, and you talk and say, or you would do recommendations whether or not you believe that it is in the best interest of the child to remain in the foster family for a little while longer, or to return back to the family, back to the mother or whoever. But anyway, so you have to go, and the judge he relies heavily on your testimony. So, and you're talking back and forth to lawyers, and anyway, I loved it. I loved just going to court. I loved going into like adjudication or whatever, and all these attorneys, and you give your say, and I loved everything about it. I liked, of course, being an advocate for a foster child too. That's my main thing, is to make sure that it's always with their interest at heart, because nobody else is really looking out for that kid. Everybody has their agenda. Even the kid is assigned an attorney. the attorney still has the attorney's job is to represent the child. So if let's say it's a 15-year-old and she's like, I want to go live with grandma, but grandma's really not that. She's not the best placement. Grandma's really, really, really old, and she doesn't have a really safe home. Blah blah blah. The ad litem, the advocate, would be really just talking about what is in the best interest. So the attorney can only represent the kid. You got CPS, they have their agenda. So that's why you're able to be just totally neutral and just say, no, it is in their best interest, and this is why I feel, because law, and you just lay it all out there. And the judge will ask you questions, and then they make a determination a lot of times based on your own recommendation. Anyway, I would totally go into that field, but I have to get a degree. And I'm not going to go, I'm 47. If I could go into an apprentice thing or, just
where you're
2
doing
years.
learning on the job.
Learning on the job or take classes, or it was just specific to this.
Well, yeah, that's another thing.
I would do
Exactly.
it. If it took 2 years, I would do it. But I'm not taking pre-algebra because I would have to take, that
Yeah, what they call the
fancy
basics.
math.
Math with letters.
Yeah, I'm like, look, I've lived 47 years, never used trigonometry in my life. I don't even know what that is, okay? So I think I can manage. It has nothing to do with your job, and it should not be required. But that's a whole, it's very frustrating.
It is frustrating. It's a system that is not designed to get people knowledge. It's a system that's designed to get people degrees.
Yeah. And so,
certificates.
yeah, and I know I'm good because, I had DAs and attorneys and my supervisors. They'd say, "You are so good when you get before the judge." I'd get so nervous, but then I've had other attorneys argue against me, and I have to anyway. I feel like I really did excel, and I think I was very, very, very good at it. I did it for 5 years, and I loved it, but. Because I'll never be able to do it as a career.
I think one of the problems why college is set up this way and why it doesn't change is because colleges are they're not judged, or they don't suffer any consequences if you can't get a job with your degree. Mm-hmm. Their income is based on you getting this piece of paper. Mm-hmm. So that's what they get money based on. It's not based on what you do with that later. And there's been some proposals that colleges, especially ones that receive federal funding, that they actually don't get paid until you get a job. So they're more incentivized not to just get you a degree, but to get you a degree that will get you a job, and they get paid in proportion to what
Isn't
you
that
get
mainly
paid.
trade schools though?
No, I'm talking about universities.
Oh wow.
I'm talking about universities that are handing out all these degrees, all these pieces of paper that are basically meaningless. Mm-hmm. Especially if you say, "Well, I got a job," but it's the counterfactual of whether or not you could have got a job without it.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that think you cannot have a good job without a degree. That just isn't true.
Yeah.
That's not true. That isn't true at all. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite of true.
Yeah.
It's completely false. There are many jobs, and I know there are some fields you can't get into without studying. And I think that's largely like a cabal. In other words, they have this. You have to have this certification, and it's artificial. It's not because if you don't have it, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. Because people were doing these jobs long before they had these certifications, and they did them fine. And so it's like in New York. If you work at a radio station in New York, and you're back in the days when they had cassette tapes,
right?
And you're the DJ, and you're playing the cassette tape, and it runs out, you can't flip it over. You couldn't flip it over and put the other side in. That's a certified job. And you had to have one of the union guys there. And if he went for a break, then you just had to sit there and wait. You couldn't flip the tape over.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you're not qualified.
Right.
Right. And it's a little different, but it's very similar. You got this cabal. You have this thing where it's like this person has to do it, but that's artificial.
Right.
Right. Anyways, but you have many of these degrees aren't this way. Many of these fields that aren't this way. And so what people have been trying to do is say, look, if you're getting federal funding and subsidies, these schools, and most of these public schools are, right, then we're going to tie your subsidy to the actual performance of people graduating.
Right.
We're going to tie it to that instead of to them getting the degree.
Right.
Because that makes that the end goal. Mm-hmm. So then economically speaking, the colleges are going to organize themselves along the line of getting you a degree,
Right.
as opposed to getting you a job.
Right.
And if it was about you getting a job, you would probably find there's a lot of changes in what's taught. So when you go to trade schools, those are about getting you a job.
Right.
Right? That's what that's more about. It's about getting a job because it's tied to that income you're going to get. And so then they don't have basic requirements. You don't have to go take some crazy, course in something that has nothing to do with it. Because it doesn't benefit you in that
Right.
way. And so they're not incentivized. They're incentivized the other way. So
Yeah.
I think trade schools are incentivized properly.
Yeah.
And I wish colleges were incentivized that way. Because there's a place for I think there is a very important place for higher education.
Right.
I think it's overrated today. I think it's overblown.
Yeah.
But I think there's a place for
No,
it.
definitely.
And there is a small segment of every population that is uniquely qualified, inherently apt to go to that. And they should be doing that. I think it's terrible to see somebody who is extremely intelligent academically not going to college. I think that's a travesty.
No, I do too. And but another thing too, I really, really wish. Because most people, when they get out of high school, they have no clue what to do. The average, I think, is 4 times to change your major. Maybe it's more. I don't know. I mean, when you're in college, because you don't know. You're just trying to figure out. I wish that there was a way to be more exposed to different things. Like instead of just going straight into college, you waste all this money, or you get discouraged, you drop out, and then you feel like, okay, where's my life? That's why a lot of boys get completely discouraged. They drop out because they don't even know what they're going to be good at, because they're not exposed to anything. They don't show you.
Yeah, don't you think that is a feature of our society, overprotecting them? Let me explain why. So a long time ago, when you were a young man, when you were a little boy, I don't know, let's say 9, you went to work. Now, that don't mean you drop out of school. You actually got some kind of a job, right?
Yes.
You went and worked at the filling station. You pumped gas in cars.
Yes.
You went and worked at the mechanics shop. You went and worked at the shoe store. You went and worked. You had a community you lived in. You were very attached to. It was a very tight-knit community. You knew all the shops. They all knew each other. And they're like, I need someone to come shine shoes in my shoe store, or organize the shelving or whatever. And you went in and you worked for an hour or 2 a day after school. You went and did your little job. You delivered newspapers. You did these things. And kids could do any job, essentially. There were no limitations.
Right.
Then we pass all these limitations where kids can only work a certain number of hours. They can only, and I'm not saying these are all bad, but I'm just saying overall there's huge limitations come in. Hours they can work, jobs they can do. At what age they can even have a legal job, which is very old. It's way older than when my kids went to work. My kids had an illegal job. They were my first illegal alien workers. What time did you start working? What age did you start? What age were we here when we started?
I moved here at 11.
Yeah, so you started working
around
about
12.
11 or 12 is when he
That's very
started working.
good.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a farm and you're not raised on the ranch, I mean, where all kids had jobs to do before they even went to school.
Yeah, you had chores. You got up, you milked the
That was their
cows and
job.
stuff.
They were working. And now, literally, they wake up and you're like, here, little Johnny, here's your little breakfast. And then they go to school. They're bored, zoned out.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, honey, I don't want you to get a job while you're in high school. I just want you to get grades.
Grades.
Yes, just focus on grades.
As if kids don't have the energy. They're boundless boxes of energy.
Yes, and what? Are you kidding me? I think anybody... Listen, if you get anything, my 2 viewers. No, I think it's so important for a teenager to work. They learn more on the job than they will ever learn in the classroom.
Right, and my point to what you were saying is that because they had this field open where they could just go in and they could do different jobs. They could do 100 jobs before they got out of high school. That's why they knew what they wanted to do.
Exactly, they were exposed to things.
Yeah, they got into a shoe shop and they go, I really like this.
Exactly.
Or they got into mechanic shop. I like this. Or they went and worked for a doctor's office as to mop, and he's looking around. They're like, hey, this is pretty cool. I think I want to be a doctor. You don't have to be a doctor to know you want to be a doctor.
Right.
Right. You can just, like, my daughter went to the dentist to get her teeth cleaned, I think is what happened. And she decides, I want to go into dentistry.
Right.
Right. All it takes is some exposure.
And there's so many.
It clicks.
Absolutely. And there's so many like things that everybody thinks like, I'm going to be an attorney, a doctor, a lawyer, a fireman, a policeman. It's like all those, like we all know what they are.
The big five.
Yeah. But then there's all these jobs that you don't really know about. You know what I mean? That you just don't know. Like people don't grow up saying, I'm going to be I don't know.
Well, nobody knows inherently what they want to do. It's like
they don't have any exposure to where that seems even that they would
that it even exists.
Yes, that it even exists.
It's like when computers were invented. Computers come out. Let's say for the common person, computers come out in 1979. Before 1979, little Johnny had no idea he wanted to be a programmer.
Right.
Bill Gates had no idea he wanted to be a programmer until computers came out. Mm-hmm. He sees a computer, and he's in Harvard. Right? Bill Gates is in Harvard. He sees a computer on a magazine and says, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I want to do that. He drops out of Harvard and he moves over to the West Coast and starts getting into computers and becomes Bill Gates.
Right.
They had no idea. Same way with Steve Jobs. He didn't grow up. He didn't know, computers weren't even there.
Right.
So when they saw them, then they felt called to that.
Right.
And it's just an example. It works this way with all jobs. You feel called to something when you're exposed to it.
And that's
I feel called to toilets.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
Partitions. I just like they call me in all the time.
Oh,
well, you're always in there, so I figure that's why you like
build
them.
To build them.
It's the best thing.
Every time I'm at work, I'm looking around.
You didn't go. I would like to go and run a business that is, doing the partitions. You know what I mean? Like that's like some weird job, but it pays super well. It's a great career.
Yeah, it's the only reason I do it. I'm not actually called to this at all.
No, but what I'm saying is there's like a lot of things that you may find that would be a very just fulfilling job, not like it's my dream job, but there's so many things out there. But
well, you have to, and this isn't the thing. Where you bring this up, I think is important. People need to get over the idea that they're going to do their dream job.
Oh yeah.
And they need to realize that they need to do what's going to make money so that they can then live their dreams.
Right.
Right. There's two ways. You can have a dream job, and that's great.
Yeah.
Right.
My husband does not have a dream job. He says he's been
don't.
faking an IT career for 20 years. We literally picked his job at the library because we didn't have computers. No, and we were like, you know what? Computers are going to be the next big thing. I could see it. No, but we knew that like going and getting a bachelor's in computer science, whatever his degree is in, it's computers. Anyway, that. He would get a job, it'd be good money, and we just needed something that was going to just be able to buy, have
to make
the
money.
paycheck. My husband's like, there are literal geniuses guys there that are like super, good at their job. And my husband's very good at his job, but he's not one of those like,
he's not a natural genius at it.
No, not even close.
Most
I mean,
people
sorry, honey.
No.
Not even close.
Very few
no,
people
but you
in
know
the
what?
world
He's
are
an artist.
natural
He is
geniuses.
an artist. Like he is a singer. He's in a band. He works for that's his outlet.
That's his passion.
That's his passion. He just goes to work. He does a good job. He's not lazy. He's not one of those like, I'll just collect a paycheck. No, but that is his career, but it is not his life.
Well,
that's not what he dreamed of doing.
That's me too, right? So I do a job I don't like, which is
But now you
install
do the
toilet
podcast.
partitions. And I do the podcast, I preach, I have I'm a pastor. Those are the things I like to do. I work and make as much money as I possibly can to subsidize what my dream is to do. Because most people are never going to make money doing their dream.
Never.
This is the idea these kids go to Hollywood, they think, my dream is to be an actor. I think that's a fine dream, right? But just be an actor. You're not going to make any money at it. How do I know? Because it's like 0.001% ever make money at being an actor.
Or a singer. I never understand.
No, there's no money in it for most people.
Go, I have
but
to
you can
make
do
it. You're like my husband is doing weddings and, he loves it. Why can't you just sing?
Is he like the Wedding Singer, the movie?
No, he doesn't just do weddings, but he does. I
love that movie.
I know. He will do weddings, yeah.
He did my wedding.
Oh, he did your wedding, yeah. But he does like, big.
And I'll give him a shout out. He is an amazing singer.
Oh, well, thank you.
He is. But he's the greatest singer I've heard personally, like no.
Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
And you have no ear for music.
No,
I'm joking.
I don't. So take it for what it's worth. I'm like colorblind, but the man can paint.
Exactly. No, but I mean, I totally buy into that too. I don't think, just get a good job, especially like if you just know it's going to pay the bills. I mean,
Now, I get so tired of hearing parents and teachers telling their kids to chase dreams. I think it's ridiculous. Like, well, it's like football. I hate football.
Right.
I think it's a terrible sport. I think I would, if I knew then what I know now, I would never let my kids play football.
Right.
Ever. It's just,
What do you think
terrible.
about that, Nolan?
He doesn't agree.
Nah, I don't
show him
agree
the
with
short arm. Show him the short arm. Come on, show him the short arm. Look at that arm.
Yeah.
Look how much shorter it is than the other arm.
Yeah, because of
That's football. Look at that. Football. Right there.
You were
And
so
for
close,
what?
though, to being drafted. Darn it. No,
I
I'm
did
joking.
get drafted. I broke my arm. They let me go.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. See? See?
They still
Terrible.
pay
Yeah.
But you're going to let your son play football? We'll see.
Probably no. Probably not.
There's too many sports that are not killing. Why do we want to have kids
You
that
can't
have
make
a
a rule
4
like
inch
that when
arm
he's 4
shorter?
months right now, right?
I can.
Well, yeah, you can say all this now because your kids are already grown.
I wish someone would have told me this then.
But you might not have have listened. You're
And
and your
that's the
kids want
least
to
of it.
play.
Well, see, no, I
There's
learned
other
a lot from
sports.
football that no other sport can teach you.
Oh, I could have taught you. What did you learn that I can't teach you?
Everything. You didn't teach me
Look,
anything.
again, I don't really agree. I would not want my kid to play football, but I wouldn't stop them. And I know that some parents are like, no, like you,
I would
all the
stop them.
injuries. I know, but I think again.
I mean, you look
if
at
we
the
all
studies
did
on the
this-
head injuries and what
I know.
concussions do
I know.
to
No,
long-term
it is really, really
mental
bad.
health. Most kids, they need every brain cell they can muster. They don't
no,
need to
it's
be
true.
bashing
It's
it
true.
in.
So maybe football. I
And
don't
there's
know.
baseball, there's soccer, there's volleyball, there's a ton of sports out
Yes.
there that are just as good to learn these things
Yeah.
that you don't have to beat their heads in.
Well,
Flag
maybe they just
football.
need to do something.
There's flag football.
I loved flag football.
But full-on football is just, for kids,
don't
to
like
me, it's just
tackle
crazy.
football.
And I think that they're buying into the marketing the NFL's putting out. The NFL is pushing football at all grade levels because they need the players. But here's the deal. Football is the least democratic, I don't know if you call it that, but you have the least opportunity to make money at football than any other sport.
Right.
If you actually have a dream of wanting to be a professional athlete, you should go into hockey.
Yeah.
Hockey, actually, you have a chance. Hockey's like, I don't know, I forget the number.
But it's just like kids. That's just what they want to do. I mean,
Right, but
you know
that's
what I
why they
mean?
have parents.
Yeah.
To say, no. You're not going to just chase dreams. You're going to actually going to be reasonable. So, like, I dreamed that I was going to be a pianist.
Yeah, right.
Well, my parents made it clear to me that would never
yeah,
happen.
right. You did not dream to be a pianist, you liar.
I'm not lying.
Oh, you aren't?
No, I'm not
That
lying.
is so dumb.
I would have traded.
Did you even know how to play the piano?
I can't sing. I can't even hear music. I can't even hear
So
notes.
you dreamt of being a pianist
always
without ever
wanted-
even putting your hands on the keys?
Yes, I wanted. I
That's
could
so
hear it in
dumb.
my head. And I just thought I would love to play the piano.
Okay.
And there was a time when I would have traded any skill I had, whichever. It turns out the reason that didn't work for me is because I didn't have any to trade. But I would have traded. Had I had any skills in my
Right.
life, I would have traded every one of them to be able to play the piano.
Right.
I was very disappointed. I was very upset about that for a long time. Very mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
Mad at God about that. Yeah. And so, anyway, back
And
to
he
happier
turned 4.
times.
No, I'm joking. Okay, so anyway, what?
No, but I had parents that tell me, look, that's just ridiculous. You can't even hear notes. You're not going to be a pianist.
Well, yeah.
Just get over that.
Yeah, for sure.
Find something that you're actually good at doing and do that. So I'm installing toilet papers. Thanks a lot, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's this idea that you're going to chase your dreams. I think it's the wrong message.
I just think that's why, going back to what we're saying, though,
Yeah.
that's why I think it's important for teenagers to have a job in high school, because it does help them figure out and having
Absolutely.
exposure to more things.
And I think they ought to
Because
have a
you're-
lot of jobs. I think parents ought to be
Yes.
not you're going to stick to this job forever because
No.
they need to just every summer
Yeah.
a different job.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea. If I was a parent now, every summer you're going to work somewhere different. You're not going to go be a waiter every summer.
Yeah.
You're going to find some doctor that but the problem is that's all limited. There's so few jobs. So we're like, why don't kids get into other work? Because we're not allowing legally they are not allowed to work in
Right.
many fields
Right.
where they could find a calling.
Yeah.
So we are picking the winners and losers of who the kids are, what kids are going to be when they grow up. And then kids that have no aptitude or no interest in the few fields they're able to actually get into as kids, then they're just saying, well, the workforce not for me. They don't realize that there is an infinite possibilities in the world.
Right.
And they're like, I just don't know what I want to do.
Yeah, but you almost have to like excel in high school to even like, it sets you up. Like if you excel in high school, then you get your scholarships and you go to college. You have more opportunities. So these other kids who are real smart, above average, who never did well in school, you know, like a lot of times your highest IQ, you know, some of your higher IQs are not doing well, you know, in school. Like,
but that's because they don't see any point to it.
No, I know.
So
but I'm saying, though, then they lose them because everybody now puts the emphasis on the super top of the class. A lot of those valedictorians, they're not geniuses at all.
They're just good at they're good at the system.
They're very good at schoolwork, and they're very good. And
that's why they're predominantly women now. Valedictorians are predominantly women.
Yeah.
Because they're very good at school, and school is set up for them.
Mm-hmm.
School is organized to get to make it better for women and get them into the next level of education. Because that's what they're I mean, they're officially trying to do that.
Yeah, I just wish parents would
Not that that's bad.
Give
I want to be
their
clear.
kid other options too, because even though you think, oh no, my kid wants to go to college. Well, of course he wants to go to college. You've never given him any other option. They've been brainwashed since they were in kindergarten to pick a college. So again, I'm not anti-college at all.
No.
I think it's fantastic and amazing. But I'm talking about the other people who don't know what they want to do, or they're not ready to go to college, or
well, there's fields that college simply won't get you there. So having a college degree isn't going to make you a good welder.
Yeah,
it won't even get you a welding job.
It's always like the unintended consequences. You know, the pendulum always swings way extreme. It's never balanced. Like, you know, everybody needed college degrees because when my parents got a college degree, nobody, especially being Hispanic, my dad got his bachelor's degree. I don't even know how many years. I mean, it had to be 40-something, 45, 50 years, you know. Anyway, and then my mom, she got her bachelor's degree. Nobody had their bachelor's degree at their age.
Does anyone else in their family have degrees?
No, they were the very first ones. Absolutely, yeah.
And see, that's a very good thing. I'm not against that at all.
I know, and we're both on the same page.
Yeah, but it's this idea that the only way to get anywhere in life is with a college degree. That's a mistake.
Absolutely.
There is a very profitable life out there for many people that has no college involved in it at all, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like, oh well. You know, I wouldn't trade my income for most college degree incomes that I know at all. I would never trade that, or the amount of freedom I have in doing it.
Yeah. You know, everybody, because one of the things my son's orders that he got are like really, really good. So he works with a lot of people that are like, this is their second tour. Yeah, exactly. And he works with a lot of like higher ups. And anyway, they always give him advice because he's like the only one that's like low ranked, you know, because he's just enlisted, you know. Right. So anyway, but they all give him like, what are you going to do? And he always says, you know, I'm going to make the career out of the Navy, you know, because you just say that, you know. But anyway, everybody says while you're here, you need to take advantage of getting certificates because they pay for everything. Certifications, get your CCNA, get your networking, all these things because he's in IT. You get that. When you get out, you'll have all these certifications. You have a top secret clearance, which you cannot. I mean,
very hard to get as a civilian.
Extremely hard.
Yeah,
it's
very expensive.
18 months, and you might not even pass.
Yes.
You know, you have a high credit, a bad credit, too much credit. That's one of the number one determinations.
I worked at the Texas Cryptological Center here in San Antonio.
Okay.
And it's staffed by mostly by Navy. Some other branches are there, but mainly Navy guys. And the people that work there, we all had to have background checks. And then the main guy had to have that kind of a background check.
Right.
So he could escort people around.
Yes. You can't even go in the building until you have, you cannot.
You have to have a basic one, and then whoever's escorting has to be. And they hire Navy guys just to be our escorts.
Yes.
Just to stand there. Don't tell Carson this because this is your future.
No. He's not. Those aren't people with top secret clearances because, you know, you don't need a top secret clearance to be an escort. You know, because he can go in and you have to be escorted. But
and they set to stand there and watch us.
No, and they shut they black everything out. I don't want to put out too much information because you're not supposed to. But
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm just going to say is that anybody that goes in and gets that kind of
Yeah, you should. What you're saying is you
military-
should go get all of those things.
you should get the certificates. You should take advantage if you're going into the military. And if you come out again with a top secret clearance or something like that,
That's real
you
good.
can get into the FBI. You can get into the CIA. There's a lot of government contract work. Working in IT, you can make
And with private companies
lot
that
of
work
money.
for the government,
Absolutely,
it helps you a lot there.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that for like anybody that wants to.
No,
look
that's
at other,
really good advice, and that's advice.
Other avenues besides just that.
Yeah, and that's good advice for. That's good advice for anyone doing in anywhere where you have where you have the opportunity where your employer, whether it be the government or private, is willing to pay for you to get something. Even if, like if I was working somewhere and they said, hey, we'll pay for your college, I would go to college. Why not?
Yeah.
That would be silly not to just because I think colleges are corrupt. It's like, okay, well, fine, I'll do it. I'm not convinced that it's going to help me that much, as much as people think it does.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, because I look at the numbers, and the numbers is that you're less likely to be employed today, a new graduate, college graduate, than a high school graduate.
No, it's true.
Yeah, the numbers have actually changed.
Yes.
Yeah, which should be scary for anyone.
Well,
coming
that's
out
why
of
they're
college.
talking about now, like Generation Z. My daughter's you're 1996. When were you born?
Millennial.
Oh, you're millennial. When were you born?
96. I was the last year.
Oh, you're the last year, yeah, because it's 96. Anyway, Generation Z are not. They're less inclined to go straight into college and they want to work. They see that all the millennials, they're like, my sister came back home. You know what I mean? Like she's living with mom and dad and she's in debt. So, they're trying, hopefully this generation, it looks like anyway that they're trying to be a little more smarter and they're not just going to go spend all this money on college and get in debt because they've learned from the previous generation how it's not really working out for them. And so they're a little bit more. So I think it's starting to maybe
It is. It is starting to come back. And businesses are figuring out other ways to filter people other than just looking at who has a college degree.
Yes.
It's slowly turning that way. One problem is that we don't allow businesses, it's illegal for businesses to test people's IQ, which is a huge mistake. But it's supposedly discriminatory. So then we can't test IQ. So but the SAT is essentially an IQ test.
Yeah.
And so that's why one reason they put emphasis on having a college degree. It means you passed an IQ test.
Right.
The ASVAB is also an IQ test.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Well, the military can IQ test.
Yeah.
They can. But private companies are not allowed to IQ test candidates. If they could IQ test, if we change that and allowed private companies to assess IQ tests, then college would immediately drop off them of importance.
Right.
Because then they're like, now we're looking, because that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for, hardly any business thinks, we're going to hire this person with this degree, and they're going to come in and know what they're doing.
Right.
They all know they have to train them on the job training. None of them come in knowing what to do. None of them do. And so they're not hiring people with degrees because they think they know what they're doing.
Right.
They're hiring them with degrees because it says something about them.
Right.
Right. It says that they can fulfill a commitment, which is huge. Right. They were there for 4 years. And I would tell them, well, I was there for 8, so it should be worth more. I squeezed it into 8 years. It tells them they can fulfill a commitment. It tells them that they passed a basic IQ test. It tells them a lot of different things. They have decent study habits. They can work on a project and get things done. And that's what they're looking for. But if we could figure out other ways to assess that more accurately, right, and assess the person's actual ability to perform a job, I think you'd find that colleges become a lot less important. Right. And then the colleges would have to focus on jobs that they really are needed for. There are careers, there are fields, I should say, that we need universities to be very good at. Yeah. Right? I'm not sure. I think, going forward, we're going to be wanting to know if our doctor was graduated on 2020 because, that was all the online class. And it's like, what year were you taking surgery before you do it? Because if you're doing it online class, I'm not sure we want that kind of doctor, right? I don't think that's so dumb. Like, when were you? Yes. When did you graduate medical school? Yes. No, we need. There are things that only universities, I think, can do properly.
No, I agree.
But the problem is they're doing all these things that they can't do, and we're not, like to your point. it doesn't seem that enough people are really considering the viable options that are out there.
Yep.
Like, for instance, the military. And it's a very viable option especially for young men.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about women. I'm not real crazy about women in the military.
Not either. No, I do think there's room for women in the military to serve in certain capacities, but do not get
Like
started.
which capacities?
Well,
let's
you know,
get started.
No.
Both of my viewers are not politically correct, so
No.
we're okay.
Well, you know, there's a lot of predominantly that are women, and I think legal is one. A lot of the nursing. There's also like an assistant. What is it called? It's not legal assistant because there's legal. It's a lot of women, and then there's
Paralegal?
almost no, not a paralegal. It's not an attorney. I'm not talking about the legal. There's also somebody that's basically you're almost like your secretary. I know that sounds, you know, that's not the word, but there's like that. Well, I forget what they're called, yeomen or something. Maybe they do all this paperwork and stuff like that. So I think that, and I'm probably wrong on that too, with the name of it. They do. It's predominantly women. So there is certain jobs that women gravitate towards, just like in college. There's the same in the military. Now, there are a lot of women that'll go in, you know, I'm just not in favor of women going into like the Marines.
Well, I'm talking about I guess I should be
combat.
Yeah, combat and any type of that type of job, like being on the ships, running the ships if you're in the Navy, being in the combat units if you're in the Marines, being in the heavy equipment units if you're there.
Yeah.
Anything that's over combat zones, I'm not real crazy about that. But pilots, I'd be fine with.
Yes.
Like that type of thing.
No, there's a lot of women
I'm okay with women being involved in non-combat. Hand-to-hand combat anyways.
Yeah.
Hand-to-hand combat, non-combat, hand-to-hand combat roles that they can qualify for without lowering the standards.
Yeah, and they won't lower the standards.
Well, they do.
Well, not in...
Yeah, they do. They
Okay.
give them lighter packs. They don't have to
for
carry
Marines, you talking about?
all branches.
All branches. No, there
They do
is.
not have to carry the
even
same
the Navy,
size
you
packs.
have women, the criteria for women, and you have the criteria for men. And then they had Carson's
Well,
boot
that's
camp
fine if they're
was
keeping
integrated.
them separate in the jobs they can do.
No, they don't.
That's what I'm saying. So
I know.
if a woman is going to be in a job that is physical, which we're talking about hand-to-hand combat.
Okay,
type
no, but
position,
combat, though, like, okay, let's say Navy SEAL or something like that, specialized units, a woman, they do not lower the standards.
the SEALs
for something
don't, yeah,
specialized.
But they will. They're moving that way.
Well,
Absolutely.
maybe, but
And
they
they'll-
can't even get out of buds. Okay, they cannot pass buds, and they cannot even pass the. They had not had one woman that even get two buds because they can't even pass
Right.
the.
And there's a tremendous
physical.
amount of
so
pressure.
even if you lower it, they're not built like a man, and they will not ever become.
They will if they lower the standards far enough, and that's what they're going to do. We're just going to
I don't-
sissified the whole all the forces.
Yeah.
Because right now the political pressure to have a woman Navy
There's not even
SEAL
any-
is so huge.
Yes, but no woman. There's only like a couple of women. It's so huge for who? Women are not like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. I mean, they're not even physically. There's no way. I mean, you look at a male's body, the amount of muscle mass, everything about them. Even their bladder, they can hold it longer than a girl. It's smaller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way they sweat.
No, I know.
Everything about a man is made for like combat. Like that's the way God designed you.
Mm-hmm.
You're stronger. You're made to be kind of like a warrior. You're ready to go to war if you had to train to be a warrior. And a woman can train all day long. We'd be like putting makeup on. We'd spend more time putting on our makeup. I know that sounds like,
Shallow.
but it's true. Women all the time. I mean, you go on Instagram right now and you'll just see women just taking pictures of their stupid butt all day long saying, why are men looking at me? I'm a feminist. And then they take pictures of their butt. There is no guy on there, not one guy, maybe there might be a guy on Instagram that's taking tons and tons and tons of photos with millions of followers
Yeah, there's very few.
of taking just of their
Nobody
butt.
wants to
of their
look
butt.
at- Nobody's interested.
Or they're just even, their face or them sunbathing, unless, that's a whole other audience. But we're just talking about in general. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I agree.
Women
That's my
and men,
point.
that's your normal girl, though. I mean, girl wants girl wants to look pretty. And men, they're just different. And I wish people would quit acting like they're the same. Then women don't even want to be like a guy.
I know. But there's a tremendous amount of political pressure to undo that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so,
but the thing is, with everything, fine, get a stupid Navy SEAL in there, lower it, whatever they're going to do. But it's going to have all again, because nobody ever thinks of the unintended consequences, because you can never talk about the unintended consequences, and that's with everything. Then all these problems happen. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of problems. And ever since women joined into the Marines, there's more assault, they say. And sometimes women lie, and they'll say that they were sexually assaulted, whatever.
I'm sure it does happen.
It happened, and it does happen. I'm not saying they're all liars. These women are liars. No, of course not. It happens. It happens. You merge them together. They should not be together.
No,
at all.
It's a terrible idea.
It's a terrible, 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 terrible idea.
It's this politically correct environment we're in,
and it causes so many problems.
Yeah, and conservatives have been predicting these problems for 50 years or more.
But you can't talk about that because everybody says,
Well, you can if you don't have an audience like
yeah,
us.
well, that's true.
We can talk about anything because nobody listens.
Yeah.
Except for that one YouTube guy that shuts our stream off every once in a while.
Yeah.
He's one of our viewers.
Yeah, we have one of our viewers closes our stream every now and then.
Oh, because you start saying things.
I guess.
Like
They say something
algorithms
they
or
don't
whatever
like.
it's
You gotta
called.
be like left,
Yeah,
stupid, and they'll shut you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that with Katie. When I had Katie on, they cut it off.
Okay.
They banned it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what does Carson think about all this in the military and the whole? Does he have any opinion on these things about women in the militry or any of that? Or he's not at that
Does he
point
even
right now?
pay attention? He goes,
Yeah.
"There's women."
No. His class they said that was the most women that they have had in a single class.
Oh.
So he had a lot of girls in IT. They've been really pushing.
Well, that's a good field.
It's
for
a
them.
very good field. But what's ended up happening is, so there's the school that he went to, it's divided, whatever, and because there's so many girls and guys, now they call it, they go to Pensacola to school, and they call it something because so many, he says it's like high school, like, boys and girls, they're all
hooking up.
They fall in love, and they get married. But they call it I forget what it's called, but anyway, yeah. I mean, It's just natural. It's like,
Well, yeah.
but I don't know. He just thinks I don't know what he really thinks. I mean, he's not in any of those types of positions, so
Right.
he doesn't really care.
They're not asking.
But
him
he
his
does
opinion.
have yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, he doesn't.
Right.
He doesn't. Whatever. He's on whatever.
And so when he went when he's going to go into the military, and then you start doing all this investigation, because I remember hearing a little bit about it, and that at first you weren't exactly keen on the idea.
I wasn't that excited. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. No, I think I was more excited about it than for sure Chris.
Oh, he wasn't too happy?
He wasn't that excited. He just didn't want him
What-
to make a decision, because my husband does not just like jump in on anything. He's not impulsive. He thinks things through for a long time. And, and
He's very deliberate.
And he does not want me to push him into making, he didn't want me to, he thought maybe I might be pushing him. Because I was like, well, I'm going to call the recruiter. Do you want me to call the recruiter, Carson? I know I can be a little pushy. But anyway, but no, I mean, when I started talking to the recruiter, and then I started looking and researching the types of jobs you can do, because when most people think military, you think combat, you think infantry.
Actually, it's a very small percentage that are actually in combat.
You think of those types of jobs, but you can do. There's so many different jobs, and so you learn a skill, and then they train you. And of course, the videos, you're like, wow, it's nothing like that in reality.
No.
They show it's just like the Marine, the brave, the few, and they're jumping off cliffs, and most of them are bored out of their minds, and they're drinking too much. At the end of the day, they're ready to go to battle, and they end up being bored. Not all Marines, of course, but I'm just saying. Okay, so I'm trying to not offend anybody because
Don't worry about it.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, but anyway, so no, then when I started finding out that it's almost like going to college, like you can learn a skill, you can find out, and then all the benefits, then I was way more excited. And because I know my son, he was not happy of living at home after college. He wants to get out. He wants to start his life, but he can't because he can't go to four-year colleges because it's too much money, so he can't leave the house. He doesn't have a job enough to go make a lot of money. I wouldn't want him to go do that and move out when he can live at home, go to college, and work.
Well, yeah, that was the rule I put on my kids. So my kids, well, Kirsten is the one who went to college, and she wanted to move out and go to a 4-year college like all her friends were doing.
Right.
And I told her that she would have to pay for everything herself if she did that.
Right.
That meant her car insurance, everything, because we pay for that.
Right.
So we don't charge her any rent. I know some parents do, and that's fine, but we never have. We don't charge any rent. She doesn't have to. We provide all the food. She doesn't have to buy food if she doesn't want to. And we gave her the car and pay for her car insurance, right? But she has to live at home, and she's going to go to a community college, not to a university.
Right,
for
right.
the first 2 years at least was the deal we made with her. For 2 years, you're going to go to community college. We'll pay for it, provided you get passing grades. You have to do decent, right? If you don't get good grades, you pay for that semester.
Right.
If you get good grades, we pay for it. So that's the way we set it up. And then she had to live at home. There's no way in the world she's going to move and go live in a dorm.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen. Not on my money.
Right.
See, my problem with that is these kids, they say, well, we want to be independent. We want to be our own person. So mommy and daddy rent me a place to live and pay for all the bills and buy for the college so I can go pretend to be independent. That's not, no.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Right.
If they want, I'm all for, I moved out when I was very young. So I moved out of the house at 16. I'm all for independence, but it has to be real.
Right.
Right. Even mine was not real enough because my dad made a deal with some friend of the family and gave them a vehicle, and they gave me rent-free living for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I lived in the house for free,
Well,
but my dad paid for it.
you were 16 though. You can.
Yeah,
okay.
but here I am pretending at 16 that I'm independent.
Right.
Right. And no one can tell me what to do.
Yeah.
When really I'm not independent at all. Moving out at 16 was a bad idea.
I was going to say, just that alone is
a bad idea.
Okay.
And then the way it was done was bad.
Okay.
If I would have been actually independent, then that would have been a little better.
Right.
Anyway, so I learned from that for myself. And with my kids, there's just no way I was going to let them pretend that. I want them to be independent, but it's going to have to be real.
Right.
Which means daddy isn't paying for car insurance, daddy isn't paying for rent, daddy isn't paying for school. If you're independent, you're paying for that. If you want me to help you, that's what I worked for. Right. But it's going to be, we're going to be clear on what that is.
Yeah.
I'm helping you for school, which means I'm paying for school. You're getting good grades. You're not partying. Right. If I'm paying for it, now you want to pay for it, do anything you want.
Right.
Right. You want to fail. You want to party. You don't want to get grades. I don't care. You're paying for it. You do whatever you want. I'm paying for it. You're going to do it. You're going to do it my way. So that's how I set it up with Kirsten.
Yeah. I mean, we were going to make Carson, of course, he was going to go to junior college, get his basics out of the way, work, live at home. But I think the more he thought about it, he thought, oh, that's so miserable.
You probably would have been miserable.
He would have been miserable. I would have been miserable. We would have been fighting. It would have been awful. He would not have studied. He would never have gone and taken all his courses. All of a sudden developed these amazing study habits and been motivated, especially when you don't know what you want to do and you're just taking courses to take courses. That's horrible.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I doing this? I don't even know what I want to do. So that's why he just said, I'm going to join the Navy.
Yeah.
And now he's like, okay, so now he's motivated to go to college. He's motivated because he's kind of starting to see, like, oh, maybe I'm going to go into cybersecurity, you know, and like it has more direction.
Right. So then when he goes and takes these courses that are kind of meaningless overall, and they probably shouldn't be on the curriculum, it's like, but this is on the path.
Yeah.
So now he's actually going somewhere, and this is getting me there.
And one thing too, I was going to say this, you know, with the military also, for those other viewers out there that might be considering joining.
You can call Christine if you want to get recruited.
No, but like if you have a super, super smart kid, but he still doesn't know what he wants to do, and he's super good at science and math and all that stuff, if he wants to go into the nuke program in the Navy, they will pay you $50,000 just to sign up.
A signing bonus.
A signing bonus. And then if you re-enlist, they'll give you $100,000 because you get paid so much money as a nuke specialist. Our nukes right now program in the Navy is way below level because they can't get people in there.
And you mean as far as manned?
to develop this this program.
What do
whatever.
you mean it's below
They can't
level?
get the manpower like this.
They're understaffed.
They're understaffed
Okay.
because the military needs highly qualified people that and not everybody's
Right.
going in. Not everybody's qualified. Like Carson could not qualify for the new program. I mean, he wouldn't want to anyway. It's so hard. You have to sign
very
up.
heavy in science, right?
Yeah, and you have to have like this really great. You have to have done pretty well in high school. So if you've done really well in high school, you have to do very well in high school. You go to college. So that's why you don't join the Navy. That's why they're having a hard time. So now they're trying to recruit these guys. You have to sign a 6-year contract because you have 2 years of school. And so it's a hard job. But when you come out of your 6 years, you will make way into the 6 figures. I mean, your whole life is set. Now you have to do that in the Navy. But what I'm saying is that there are other jobs too where they'll give you signing bonuses and things like that. So again, just because if you're so smart, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to just go straight to college. There's other options. And it's not just the Navy, it's also the Air Force, then even the Army, like intelligence, that's one of the things I kept pushing for Carson, but I started reading more and it was more like they said, if you like doing spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations.
And languages, right? And intelligence, isn't there language? Don't they have language fields
no,
there?
that's in the CTs, like CTI is.
Okay. Counterterrorism units?
No, I don't know what it is but it's for interpreter.
Okay.
So Carson's going to school right now with a guy, and you get totally immersed. Like you go in, if you think you might have an aptitude to learn a language, so you don't even have to know Mandarin, for example, but you might have an aptitude to learning languages. So you take a quick test. If you pass it, this language, they give you a fake language, then you take a test on it. And so if you can learn that fake language and you test okay, then they know that you might have an aptitude. And you might be better off, maybe it's Spanish or whatever, but the language, of course, is Mandarin right now. So, there's Arabic and all this other stuff. So then they totally immerse you into that. So you go to school, you learn, you read, write, everything for a month. And then they'll see how you do at the end of the month. And some people fail out, like they can't do it.
Yeah.
So, but it's really, really, really hard. So right now, Carson just met a guy. They're becoming friends or whatever. And he's, Mandarin. He was telling him all about it and stuff. So anyway, so there's like all these different options.
There's a tremendous amount of options that people, and you're right, people don't realize that about the military. They think of military, they think I'm just going there, I'm going to carry around an M16 and shoot in the field. And there's tremendous opportunities there for learning how to do things.
And all
very
the
cheaply.
presidents were like in the military.
And this is like not
Donald Trump, I know, and there were a lot of other ones. I said a lot of them.
Yeah.
No, I know. I meant there was a lot of
for a long time it was that way. Yeah, Clinton was not, Bush was not, or Bush was reservist. Bush too was a reservist. Yeah, Obama.
Oh yeah, but George H. was a
George
pilot.
H. Oh yeah, he was definitely he was shot down and everything.
Yeah.
He was actually a war hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, there's a lot of that, and that goes to the idea that there's ways of getting education. Of different ways, be the military, trade schools, in ways that don't cost a penny. They actually pay you to do it.
Exactly.
And this is why this stranglehold that college has on education is so disturbing to me. People think the only way I can get an education is to go spend $100,000 to get it.
Right.
And it's not true.
Right.
It isn't true. For instance, if you're really interested in business, you don't need to go get a business degree at school and pay $50,000 or $60,000 for a business degree.
Right.
Go start a business. Start a lawn mowing business. Learn how to do the taxes. Study up on the employee. There's all kinds of free courses that business associations give that you can go take on how to do this stuff and learn how to run a little business, another business. You'll learn business. There's ways to do that. There's ways to learn. You want a certification. You don't have to pay to get this. People talk about, well, I'm going to go to trade school. Trade schools, in my opinion, are a complete ripoff. Complete ripoff.
Yeah.
I like trades, but trade schools, they're ripping people off because you can learn to be an electrician without paying a penny. Just go sign up. Just go get a job at an electrical company.
Right.
They will give you the education for free and pay you to do it. You actually get to clock in as an electrician while you're taking the classes you have to take
Right.
to pass the certification test or the licensing test. And so you can become a master electrician, not only not paying any money, but having been paid the entire time. So you're talking about a difference of, let's say, $120,000. Instead of paying $50,000, they paid you $70,000.
Right.
And you get the same thing at the end. And so there's all these options out there that too many, especially men, and this is predominantly men that would take advantage of a lot of these.
Right.
But even women. It's like I get women all the time ask me how they can get into construction. Because there's a lot of money in construction.
Yeah.
It's great hours. Construction is a great job for many reasons. It's great hours. It's 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. Weekends off almost always. So it's a great hours, right? It's not very dangerous. It's extremely safety conscious now.
Right.
So it's not like a dangerous job. It really isn't. And there's a lot of it that is not out in the baking hot sun. It's inside, because once the buildings are finished, there's most of the work is to be done inside.
Yeah.
So most of construction is actually inside work. And a lot of it is what highly qualified work or work that requires specialized and requires qualified people, like running the data cabling and setting up the IT centers. I mean, there's a lot of people doing that in construction, which is a construction job. The AC work, the electrical work, the plumbing work, all of that's inside in AC. I work in AC almost every day in Texas in construction. So that's, there's a lot of these areas where you can get into, and women get into that very easily too, because these companies want to hire women.
Right.
You actually have
But that's just
chance.
it. They want to do, everything is catered towards women now, because again, so now it leaves out the men. You know what I mean? Like,
well, in construction, it's not
so
there
much
yet.
construction. No,
In construction, in my opinion, it's very balanced. Construction
But I'm just saying,
companies.
there's so many incentives for women, and so again, it's always
You need to
though.
be behind it.
There's
there you
always
go.
there's always incentives in everything, even in college. Going into sciences because it was predominantly men.
Yes.
So now they put its emphasis on women, but I feel like. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking this, but I feel like they don't want men to have their own thing at all. Like they have to just infiltrate every single thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do,
like
but I don't think it's that way in construction. I actually think construction is doing it the right way.
Okay. But I mean, construction, I don't even know any woman who wants to be in construction.
Actually, there's more. I get a lot of women asking me how they can get
okay?
into it, because they're looking at their options also. And, what is a woman going to do where she can make, let's say, $60,000 a year without a college degree? Well, she can go be an electrician.
Okay.
And she'll get Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30 hours. I mean, that's really good work hours.
Right.
And if you get into electrical company, that's a big one. You're going to get benefits. You're going to get health insurance. I mean, it's a really good option. Just like you're saying there are good options for men other than college, there's actually some really good options for women that are not college.
Oh, yeah.
Like in
Of course,
construction,
yeah.
that is real. And these jobs, and I'm as cynical about that or as critical about this as anybody, but I'm in it all the time. And I find that these women are pulling their own weight. They're not lowering any standards for them to be able to come in. They're doing great jobs, and it's a job that anybody can do. You don't have to be a man to be an electrician. Nowadays, everything that's done that's heavy is done with equipment.
Right.
Not even men are like, look.
No, I know.
I mean, we lift heavy things, and we make things that lift them. Any woman, many women, not any woman, not any man, in fact, could do what we do probably. But anyone with above average strength could do what I do, because we use equipment to do the lifting. Every now and then, but that's the same way right now. It's like I have, let's say, 6 people working for me. 2 of them we know can't carry the heavy thing up the stairs.
Right.
They're either very overweight, or they're very small, or they have a back problem, or whatever. I mean, that's men and women all across the board. So there's always stronger people are going to have to pull more weight than weaker people. But anyways, my point is that there's this huge opportunity for women to get into construction if they don't want to go into college. And then if you're a woman and you're not going to college and you're not going to run your own business, then how are you going to make any decent amount of money? It's hard. That's a difficult thing to come up with.
Yeah.
Where you go to be an electrical and you get your master electrician, you're going to make $120,000 a year.
Right.
So that's good money, and you're basically running a crew. You're the boss.
Yeah.
And I've known several women in construction that are doing that. There's this one girl in construction. I see her all the time. I call her a girl. I'm not trying to be ugly. Young woman. She is she's a pipe fitter. So she installs the cast iron pipes that the fire suppression system is, the sprinklers, the fire sprinklers, they all have to be cast iron, obviously, because you don't want those pipes melting in a fire, right? So those are all cast. So they're very heavy pipes. But yeah, she's like Kirsten size, little bitty woman, very small woman. And she has like her overalls, and then she cut the legs off because they don't make them small enough for her. And so they're like sewed up at the bottom. She looks hilarious, right? She's great. She's like the best pipe fitter that I've ever worked with. She's fantastic. And she has this huge guy who's her helper. I mean, this guy is like, if you saw a cartoon of a big guy, bald head, huge guy, and that's her helper. And she's constantly yelling at him, telling him how stupid he is because he can't do it right. Get down off that ladder. And she goes up and does it. Very funny girl. I love her. I've been on several jobs with her. She won't ever talk to me. I say hi to her and say hi, but she's all business. She won't talk to anybody. But yeah, she's impressive.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's these opportunities like that, and for boys also to go into fields.
Yeah.
Where they don't have to go to college. And to your point, I think these things need to be presented better by parents. I think parents need to be presenting to their kids. There are other options in life.
That's where it is, because I mean, you don't leave it up to the
You get right up in there.
Oh gosh, I keep doing
You can
that.
move it back with you if you want to lean back. Yeah, just move it back.
Lay down.
That's why I wear these, so I can tell when people aren't on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, what you were saying?
I don't know.
I was just saying, I think that...
What was I saying? I don't know.
I just think that more people need to be presented with these options.
Absolutely.
In life, so they can get ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I sure appreciate you coming and doing this. It's been great.
Yes.
And hearing all about what's going on. We wish Carson the best. I hope he does well in the Navy, and looking forward to seeing what he does. How long is he thinking of re-enlisting? Or
he doesn't know yet.
He doesn't know yet.
He goes back and forth, so we'll see.
Okay. How much longer does he have to go?
3 more years, I guess.
Okay, so
by August it'll be 3.
Okay.
Left.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing how he goes. Maybe we'll get him in on the podcast someday when he comes back.
Sounds good.
Talk about Hawaii and all the rough military service. We thank him for his service. Thank you for your service.
You're a hero.
You're such a hero to live in Hawaii. Such a hero.
All right.
But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Next week, Saturday at 9 a.m. next week, we're going to have Brian Tebow is going to be here. You're going to walk right in front of the camera.
Oh, sorry.
Couldn't wait 1 second. Next week, we're going to have Brian Tebow here at 9 a.m., and we're going to be talking about parenting. So if you're interested in that, Brian Tebow raised 4 kids. One of them was a severely disabled special needs child, and so I'm very interested to talk to him about his advice on parenting. It's too late for me. My kids all turned out horrible, but hopefully it's not too late for you. And so I hope that you're a better dad and you have a better son than I did. That's how I meant to say it. Anyways, so Christine's not here anymore. She fled the scene, but we're thankful for her to be here. And